Talk to me about data collection.
Okay, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
When I first found out about all this, I wrote to my state school board and I called repeatedly and I finally got an answer to a very simple yes or no question. And the question was, this was before I pulled my son out to homeschool, can my son attend public school and opt out of the tracking? Because I knew there was a P20 system and an SLDS. Okay, P20 is preschool through age 20. They're tracking everybody, basically cradle to grave, if you want to think about it that way. And then there's an SLDS, which means State Longitudinal Database System. The federal government paid every state in this union, and they all have one now, to have an SLDS that tracks our children. And it goes from workforce services, it's data mashing from many different agencies. And
what does it do? What is it for?
Well, okay, so let me finish this first little story.
Right.
So I said to my state, can my son opt out? I don't want him tracked. I think this can come back to bite us. What if he makes a mistake and he doesn't want people to know about that mistake when he's 35 years old? And they said, no, our data is not technologically advanced enough to allow for opting out. So they, and then they said, no, but then they said, but the USOE does not, that's the Utah State Office of Education, does not release student level data, which means personally identifiable information. They say it's just aggregate data. That means just, group data.
I don't believe that for a second.
But here's the problem. So if you look at what I consider one of the seminal documents of this whole movement, which is the cooperative agreement between Arne Duncan, the Department of Education Secretary, and the SBAC, which stands for, it's a testing group. It's the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, of which Washington State was the agent. So it's an agreement between Arne Duncan and Washington State, but it affects most of our states. In that document, on page 3, it says that they will require the two consortia of tests to work together to share student-level data. They use the words, and then they have a little phrase that says, subject to applicable privacy laws. However, the Department of Education went behind Congress's back and altered the privacy laws in, was it 2011 or 2010? So FERPA has been altered, so parental consent no longer required. They changed the name so authorized representative can mean anyone, even a school volunteer. They altered everything. Now, it's not required to share this information, but it's not allowed either. And so as soon as our states...
What are they gathering?
Well, if you look at the Department of Education website, there's something called the National Education Data Model. That shows you where they want to go. And there they want over 400 data points collected. So you have your reading, writing, arithmetic scores, but then they want other things: disciplinary history, extracurricular activity.
Nicknames,
religion, religious
income,
identity,
political affiliation,
address.
What the
political
heck
registration.
would they need all of that for?
Well,
Bus stop
the
times.
idea is you can study.
Bus stop. Wait, bus stop times?
The
Okay,
National
go ahead.
Data
Well, the idea, I suppose, is that, well, you can study things, you can go through studies and design programs, evaluate programs, and design other programs so that people's lives will be better, which I think translates to...
I really despise the way this administration and people now look at individuals only as a data point. I'm more than a data point. I'm a man.
Well, our teachers are saying we're just data drones now. That's all we are. The teachers feel like they're data drones, and they don't teach anymore. They just find data on the students, enter the data, test,
And it's not just this administration. It's one of the biggest proponents of the Common Core is Governor Jeb Bush.
Right. So we have Republicans and Democrats, going in all this
Republican.
Direction. And it does take just individuals making a difference. So Senator Ligon, whom I consult with on this, it was just a constituent in the district that brought this to us about a year ago, saying this race to the top looks dangerous, and I'm going to get you some information on it. I mean, and we've taken the ball and we're running with it.
Same thing in Indiana, same thing in Missouri, a couple of moms in Missouri, same thing in Utah. It's just a couple
Texas fought this really hard, right?
Right.
And Perry came out and said, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen here. But then we got C-scope. So it's not like you can dismiss one and get, we won that fight. Because the minute you say we won that fight and you turn your back, a new one is in.
That's right.
You have to be vigilant.
But you know, I think intimidation is a big part of this. And there's an intimidation factor because the documents are so boring and so long and that the titles are so fancy, you know, Secretary of Education, like who cares? Because we are the people. Our country has been founded so that it's not like a kingdom where we've got a king and we've got the little noblemen and then we've got the serfs. I think people really believe that's how our country. No, separation of powers. It's the states and the federal are like sibling rivalry. We're supposed to balance the powers. So if people realize that we have the power, then they are going to take back the power. It's a confidence game.
If we don't hit it at the state level, we will lose.